Hello, I'm Jody Wolf, and you're watching Expoz, January 7, 2018, and it's 10:04 p.m. in Birmingham. Topic, plain old disclosure, throw out soft. Forget that word, just make it disclosure. This is what we're having, and not everyone's having it. Don't get me wrong, but not everyone sees these things. I've never in my life seen a UFO. Never saw an alien. I saw a couple of strange things, but I also dated a couple of them too. But, you know, I've not seen anything. So whether they're there or not, I don't know. I do know, however, what the Bible says about these things. And when Matthew 24:24 said even the very elect would be deceived if it were possible, then that makes me think there is something there, something that you really need to fear and be terribly afraid of, because it's something that will cause you to be confused about what you may have seen or may have heard, or either you're seeing or hearing. Something that's going to confuse you. And what are all these UFOs? They're confusing to a lot of people. You have people that's been teaching on them for a very long time. And the first, I think one of the first was late great planet Earth. And then you had the Chariot of the Gods. Well, Chariot of the Gods left me in the seat alone because I never quite got a hold of that one or understood it fully. But the late great planet Earth, Hal Lindsey was ahead of his time, in my opinion. But I'm talking about on Fox News a few weeks back, they're talking about the 47 Roswell crash did happen, and F-18s in 2002 chasing these things. First, they said that they were moving at 7,000 miles an hour. I heard that. Then I hear at 20,000 miles an hour. Who did I hear that from? I heard it from John Lear. And I also heard other things from John Lear that makes me feel like, well, he's kind of off his rocker. And literally, I just believe that he thinks, rather, I mean, he says this, and you can find the blog. He believes the moon was made, yes, our moon was made on the planet Jupiter, was made. I mean, like people making a moon. Can you imagine how big it is? Well, not only that, he's talking about the rings of Saturn, that there's UFOs in the rings, that a field comes out behind it. It's in other words, this craft is making the rings of Saturn. But there's something else to that, a second story. There's a guy that got a hold of some Hubble pictures a few weeks back or months, and noticed that in the rings of Saturn, he found in each ring some blurred out spots. When he went in and tried to piece them together as best he could, he said they looked like they were in the shape of perhaps a pecan. He did not offer a size, but John Lear did. John Lear said, oh, these craft making the rings of Saturn, he said they're 30,000 miles long and like 1,200 miles wide. You know what? I don't believe that, not even for a second. I tell you what I do believe, that God, through the book of Enoch, book 1, and you get around chapter 12 and start reading in there, and you'll see what it talks about, the stars placed in the heavens. God placed stars to do certain things, to show us the seasons, the times, even the time of the day, the shortest day of the year, for whatever country you live in. And then you have the blood moon signs. That's a sign for Israel, always for Israel, not for us. But then you have eclipse. These are signs for the country that the eclipse goes over, that there's a judgment, a pending judgment, or a coming judgment. And boy, did we get that. So these angels were there for these signs. And the book of Enoch explained that these angels were placed for the signs for man, for planting, for growing, for the seasons. Well, a lot of things Enoch saw, but then John Lear has a totally different thing. Well, when you're talking about F-18s chasing UFOs, first they said 7,000 miles, 7,000 miles an hour. I'm getting too excited here. And then he said, oh, no, it's more like 20,000 miles an hour. He said, but that's a lie. Huh? John Lear said there were no F-18s chasing UFOs. Number one, why chase something you can't catch? But number two, he said that was made in somebody's office. He said, because here's how I know. Now, John Lear goes back. Now, his father was the Lear Corporation. His father started the Lear Jets, became very wealthy. And John Lear, he took that over. But he also became test pilot for about every aircraft in our country, plus aircraft in other countries. And he broke all the world's records in all the aircraft. He's flown everything there's out there to be flown except maybe the shuttle. So he knows what he's talking about when he says, if I'm in an F-18 and I'm going as fast as I can go, and I've got my helmet sealed the way it is, you do not hear a distorted voice with air passing by the microphone as you do in this conversation between the F-18 pilot and the tower he's talking with. He's also said, and they said in the wind is 120 knots out of the west. He said no. And I can tell you, I agree with him in this because I've done this. When you say, what is a wind speed? They'll tell you 270 at 20. That's west, 20 miles an hour, or 20 knots. You don't say 120 miles an hour. I'm sorry, at 120. They don't say 120 miles an hour out of the west. They'll say 270 at 120. When I'm going in for a landing on runway 36, I may ask for the winds. If I tell them I'm going to land at 36, or they tell me land 36, they say the winds at 345 at 9. Then I know exactly where that wind's coming from. It's right out my left, about 11 o'clock. So John Lear hit on a lot of things that called him down and called him off for that. That is a tale. He said, you don't hear this wind going by your microphone and outside static in the airplane as you have a conversation with a tower. You just don't do it. So I consider that one closed. But I do disagree with John Lear when he says there's 250 million people living on the moon in giant cities. And China said the same thing. Astonishing. They're beautiful cities down there with millions and millions of people living in them. I disagree with that. I disagree with this moon was pulled around the universe after it was made on Jupiter and finally parked where it is. I believe that God says, let there be light. And there was light. And he used a brighter light, the sun, for the daytime, and the lesser light, the moon, for the nighttime. That's what I believe. I don't believe that a moon was made on Jupiter and pulled around. And tell you what else I believe. I believe Nimrod is being created right now today. I believe that he's already grown his cloven hooves. I believe he's that ready. I also believe that you can yourself pick up and make a speed of excess of 20 to 30,000 miles an hour in your hands with this little booger right here. I won't hit the mic, but see behind me on that wall? You take your hand and you get your laser pen like this. You stand out in the field like in Kansas, stand a half mile away or as far away as you can get and still see the light from a freight train and go from one end to the other and flip your wrist. That light will move excess of 30,000 miles an hour up and down the side of that train. Well, guess what? So can they do a hologram in the same manner. They can make a hologram in the sky appear to move at any speed and turn on a dime and never slow down. That's what they do. That's what the UFOs do. But are they UFOs or are they holograms? I believe Tom Horn and Steve Quayle said that they're building things under ice. That's taking our DNA and other DNA and matching them, or I say matching, making things. Yes, they're doing that. They've been doing it on Plum Island out of New York for years, and they're still doing it. They've been doing it here in Birmingham, Alabama, Southern Research Institute for years. And now they're in Kansas with Plum Island. That's their new spot. And Gary Stearman's been talking about it forever. L.A. Marzulli's talking about merging the two, the Nephilim and man. Well, they've done that, but he says they're doing it again. I believe that. So I believe that these things are coming upon us, man, and I believe they're coming here. So this is why I say soft or hard disclosure, forget that. Just put disclosure. Because it's here, it's now. And if you don't believe it, then you might be left behind. Don't take something that is a warning and do nothing with it, because Jesus had many of those for us about be aware, keep enough oil in your lanterns, be aware of your surroundings of the night. You know, there's verse after verse after verse that tells us, be not deceived. And then Matthew 24:24, right there. Even the very elect would be deceived if it were possible. Thank God it's not. I mean, the reason it's not is because God is there. That's why it's not possible. He won't let it happen. But if it weren't for God, then yes, it would be possible that we would be deceived and we would follow Nimrod off into the whatever hole he's going to go in. The angels that's going to come out of the ground will come out so fast, they'll shoot up in the sky and they'll settle down slowly. And then people here on the ground is going to bow to them. And then you have those that's coming out of River Euphrates when they're released. They're going to come out to kill people by the millions, by the tens of millions. Too much is about to happen to be ignored. So forget soft or hard. Just plain old disclosure. It's here. Be aware. Things happened. Things are happening, and things are going to get much, much worse. And we don't even have a news that we can trust today to tell us the truth about anything. We really don't. We have a bunch of people that has already given over to Agenda 21. If you want to know what socialist is like, go and find you some short stories, documentaries on Venezuela right now today, since their inception or conception into Agenda 21 or a socialist life. See how they started and see how they ended, where they are right now. Today they're falling apart. That's socialism, guys. And if that's the life you want, then you're going to get it. But I'm not. I'm going to be taken out. I don't want it. I don't want any part of it. Be warned that these things, these stories that you've heard all your life, they're coming to maturity now. They have reached their apex and they're here. It's just that we don't know what day it's going to occur. But when it does, as soon as those angels fall from their places in the skies, at the same time we'll be going up. As soon as Satan is kicked out of heaven for the last time, as he comes to the ground, the church will be going up. Simultaneously, just like that. Or you're going to be going up when he comes down, because you certainly don't want to be here when his feet touches this ground. Jody Wolf Expoz.